All right, before we get into their apology here, I just want it to be very clear. I don't fault the developers. I fault leadership. And what this guy does is he comes out here and he basically takes responsibility for all the problems that were present with Cyberpunk.
My name is Marcin Iwinski and I'm the co-founder of CD Projekt. When I started CD Projekt 25 years ago, one of its founding principles was honest and direct communication with gamers. When CD Projekt Red, the game development part of CD Projekt, was born, it added something important to that principle, the ambition to make the best games in the world. It became our mission and something that guided us up until now.
Okay. So I think the first thing he says is already
CD Projekt. When I started CD Projekt 25 years ago, one of its founding principles was honest and direct communication with gamers.
That's already just not true. You should have told us that you cut the scope of the game. You should have let people who actually got copies to review it talk about the bugs instead of using canned footage that you had already pre-recorded, which we have already discovered was scripted. They scripted the E3 2018 trailer. Or 2019, whichever the E3 trailer was that shows you in the city. They scripted it. So there's nothing that's going to happen that they don't want to happen. It's not going to show off any of the bugs. So you're effectively lying to your consumers. You're not having honest communication about the quality of your product to the consumers. I played on PC. Did I have bugs? Yes, I had bugs. Some that were really annoying, some that were pretty obnoxious. But even still, that doesn't excuse, like, I wish those weren't there, but I can see through bugs. The console version of the games are just straight up broken. They were broken at release, and that's not honest communication with gamers. At the very least, it's dishonest communication. At the most, it's straight up lying. You're straight up misleading to the point it becomes a lie.
Mission and something that guided us up until now.
Exactly.
Based on that legacy of genuine and honest communication, you've trusted us and pre-ordered our game. And despite good reviews on PC, the console version of Cyberpunk 2077...
It doesn't matter if there's good reviews. IGN and all these other gaming companies always give good reviews to games that don't deserve it. Like, gaming reviews, if you're talking about something like Metacritic where users can actually input their scores, that can be fudged up too. It's like, if you're using reviews of your game as a metric to its success, I don't think you're actually looking at it correctly. Sure, it's probably important for you as a business to get positive reviews, but as a consumer, obviously I look at the reviews, and the reviews indicate to me what the quality of the game is going to be like, but I'll also look at gameplay. I'll also look at the systems that exist in it and function in it. It doesn't matter if the reviews on PC are good. The reviews on PC and the reviews on console effectively bridge and meet each other for the overall review of Cyberpunk. Just because you're saying like 50% of the reviews are adequate, even though we all still had bugs and glitches, it doesn't excuse what happens to this other percentage of the population who bought and purchased the title. So by doing this, it's trying to be like, well, we did good on PC, but those darn old consoles weren't good enough. I played this on PC. I had enough bugs, and there's enough missing content in this game to just make my head spin.
Did not meet the quality standard we wanted it to meet.
No, it did not.
I and the entire leadership team are deeply sorry for this, and this video is me publicly owning up to that.
And this is the one thing that we can take away that's really good about CD Projekt Red at the moment. They actually are owning up to their mistake, unlike other companies like EA, which has Anthem, EA BioWare, which created Anthem, which basically did the same thing where they lied in their E3 trailer. They created a scripted events in the E3 trailer for Anthem that made you think that the game was going to be more in-depth than it actually was. Now, the reason why everybody could get behind bashing EA at the time was because they had just come out with the Star Wars Battlefront series, and Star Wars Battlefront, the first one, wasn't well received. And then released the second one, and they have pay-to-win loot boxes and microtransactions in it, to the point where they actually are like, people rebelled against it, and they had to remove that system from the game. So EA was already on the hot seat by the time they get to Anthem. Then they lie about the trailer, and they have scripted events in the trailer, so they got hammered for it. I'm waiting for people to hammer CD Projekt Red for this, but I don't think it's going to be a case, because if you're looking at what they've done, this is really their first big mistake. And if it is their first big mistake, people are going to be like, well, I'll wait for them to prove that I can trust them again. But I'm at the point where they pulled off the exact same shit that EA BioWare did with Anthem. People got to bring that same level of energy. That's all I'm saying.
Please, don't fault any of our teams for what happened.
Nope.
They all are incredibly talented and hardworking.
Yep.
Myself
Especially
and the
since you
board are
crunched
the
them.
final decision makers, and it was our call to release the game. Although, believe me, we never ever intended for anything like this to happen.
That's bullshit. So you're telling me you didn't understand the quality of the game on the consoles? So as the leadership board of the company, you didn't understand the quality of your own product? Is that ultimately what you're saying? You didn't listen to the developers who said they needed released until 2022? Like, that information was just released in the Bloomberg article. You need to actually, like, he can't, like, Alex on the Angry Joe show, they broke this down, and he said something that was really important. The things that I want him to say, he can't say without getting sued or something to that effect. And it's true. They ultimately lied and misled us. How could you be part of the management of the company and not know the quality of your biggest release ever? That's either an insane level of incompetence, or you just don't give a fuck and you're like, ship it. Either way, it's bad. You also had to have known that the scope of the game had to be cut because they needed at least until 2022. There's not even a cop response in the game.
I assure you that we'll do our best to regain your trust.
You can try.
Now I'd like to tell you how the situation looked like from the inside. Cyberpunk 2077 is huge in scope. And I'm not only talking about quests or things you see at first glance. I'm talking about a multitude of custom objects, interacting systems, and mechanics.
Yep. Okay, so here's what I'll say. Interacting systems and mechanics, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. In fact, I think that's bullshit. I think there's more games that have more interactions and mechanics that are more impressive than Cyberpunk that turned out better. If you're talking about mechanics and systems that exist in the game, I don't agree with you. But if you're talking about the actual city, they created The Witcher, and so you've got a few big cities in The Witcher. But if you're talking about all the items and the clutter in the game, there's definitely a lot of that. So what he's going to go here is he's going to say, we got it running on PC, but then consoles didn't have enough disk bandwidth to be able to make it a reality. That's true, but it's also a cop-out.
In the game, everything is not stretched out over flat terrain where we can make things less taxing hardware-wise, but condensed in one big city and in a relatively loading-free environment. On its own, this is a challenge, but we made it even more difficult for ourselves by wanting to make the game look epic on PCs and then adjusting it to consoles.
And see, this is him essentially saying last-gen consoles weren't powerful enough to deal with the game. I mean, just look at Red Dead Redemption 2. I played Red Dead Redemption 2 for the first time on Xbox One, and I absolutely love it. And while it doesn't look better than when I play it on my PC, it still looks incredible. So it's like, I get that Red Dead Redemption is basically just open space and trees and assets and stuff like that. So it's a completely different experience. You can't totally compare it. But then just look at GTA. It's a similar type of city, similar type of environment. It's just, none of the stuff that CD Projekt Red is saying at this point rings true. And look, if you're having trouble releasing it on consoles, you do realize that a next generation of consoles had released before your release date. So you could have just restricted it to that type of console. But no, you decided to develop one version of the console games. So the PS5 is currently running on the PS4 version of Cyberpunk, and the PS4 can probably barely even play Cyberpunk. So, I mean, it is what it is. You can't get ultimately upset at the developer for the problems and the technical things of, like, you're never going to get a PlayStation 4 that outperforms a PC that's properly built. Like, my PC is going to kick the crap out of a PlayStation 4 every day of the week. But if you just look at the performance of the title, in terms of consoles, it clearly was not up to the standards of a game that should be released, and that's indicative of the fact, or that's indicated by the fact that Sony took it off of their store. They wouldn't sell it for a bit. I don't know if it's back on the store yet, but they literally would not sell the game to their consumers. They offered refunds for the game. That's something Sony doesn't do. I mean, the reason they did that was because, it was broken. It didn't work. You ported it very poorly.
Especially old gens. That was our core assumption, and things did not look super difficult at first. We knew the hardware gap, yes, but ultimately, I think that time has proven that we've underestimated the task.
Not even underestimated, bro. You had no chance of making it work. Like, you cut out so many systems and things in the game, and yet you couldn't even get what you cut it to work on those base-gen consoles. You should not have released it. Like, it opens you up to such a bad legal situation by releasing a game that doesn't function. You're going to get refunds, you're going to get your investors to sue you because you said that these things are running surprisingly well on last-gen consoles. Surprisingly well.
To give a concrete example, and the main culprit, We had to constantly improve our in-game streaming system for all gen consoles. Streaming is responsible for feeding the engine with what you see on screen, as well as the game mechanics. And since the city is so packed and the disk bandwidth of all gens is what it is, it constantly...
See, he's throwing old generation consoles under the bus. In my opinion, somewhat unnecessarily. We all know that they're bad. You shouldn't have released a title that was this intensive, that was designed for PCs, for those consoles. Those consoles are absolutely horrible. They've got Jaguar cores. They have barely any... They don't even have a powerful GPU. You have to go to the PS5 and the Xbox Series... No. Oh my god, I don't even know what the fuck it's called anymore. Yes, Xbox Series X, that's right. Because the last one was Xbox One. Jesus Christ, they need to fix that name. I'm a Microsoft fanboy. I use controllers. When I say fanboy, I mean I started on Xbox. So I should know this, but they go from 360 to 1 to Series. I have no idea what the fuck's going on.
Challenged us. Every change and improvement needed to be tested, and as it turned out, our testing did not show a big part of the issues you experienced.
Okay, so right there, that's bullshit. You're saying your testing didn't indicate to you that it was broken and didn't actually function on the last generation consoles? Who was testing it? What were you doing? How do you not understand the quality of your own product when you release it? That's something that I cannot get over, and I don't think anybody who is a fan of video games should be able to get over. You didn't understand the quality of your product when you released it. That enough right there is enough to piss me off. But the fact that it was cut in scope and you still had the balls to release it on console when it clearly didn't work is just bullshit. Look at Elder Scrolls Online. Elder Scrolls Online was announced relatively like a year or two after Skyrim was launched, right? 2013. They released it on PC first, and then they released it for the Xbox One and the PS4. The reason they released it on PC first was because they actually had the PC version of the game working. The reason they didn't release it on the Xbox and PS4 at the time was because those versions weren't as optimized. So even Bethesda understood this, and they actually took steps to achieve it. People can complain about Fallout 76 all they want. It's essentially meant to be the Fallout version of ESO, where you have paid microtransactions and it's like recurrent payments for subscriptions and stuff. It was already going to be a cash grab from the jump. This wasn't supposed to be like that. I mean, you can say what you want about Bethesda, but at least Bethesda, in the instance of Elder Scrolls Online, realized that one port, was the PC port, was better and further along, so they released that because it was ready. Then they continued working on the consoles, and they released it later. Would anybody have complained if they didn't release the console version? They have next-generation consoles already that could have released the game on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X exclusively, as opposed to the last generation consoles. They could have partnered with both of those companies to help boost the sales of those new consoles, even though there's already shortages of those consoles to be sold. But it would give they could have done so many different things instead of what they did. And what they chose to do was the most business interested thing. And I can't fault them. They're a business, but at the end of the day, they put themselves and exposed themselves to unnecessary risk from lawsuits from investors, lawsuits from consumers, and that's what's going on right now. You're paying the price of making your gamble.
Experience while playing the game. As we got closer to the final release, we saw significant improvements each and every day. And
so if there are significant improvements by the state that it launched in, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Jackie put the fucking pistol in his head. Every time I played, I even played it a week after launch, and they still had, he puts the pistol in, the pistol goes into his head as the biochip, and then he slots it into V's brain. Like, no wonder I have to go around Night City shooting everybody. I've got a fucking gun in my brain. Like, it's just annoying.
And we really believed we would deliver in the final Day Zero update. Now let's talk about the review process. We started sending our PC review keys in the first days of December. On launch day, December 10th, we hit the ground running with a really good start on PC. While not perfect, it's a version of Cyberpunk we are very proud of. At the same time, we're fighting for quality on all-gen consoles till the very last moment. And every extra day of us working on the Day Zero update brought visible improvement. This is why we started sending console review keys on the 8th of December, which was later than we originally planned. This all happened while working from home with all the challenges resulting from...
Okay, I'm not going to let him get into that whole the challenges resulted from the pandemic and stuff like that. That's obviously true. But let's just stop and listen to the review process. He doesn't address the fact that the company itself let reviewers have console copies, have PC copies, but then wouldn't let them post content that they had got themselves. You couldn't upload your own gameplay. You could only upload what CD Projekt Red had already given you, canned footage from E3 and other events. That we already now know were scripted. So they effectively only let the people who they got review keys show scripted content that had no bugs or glitches in it. And he doesn't address this at all. This is the point that is probably going to be the biggest thing that is anti-consumer, I think, that the company has done. Even if the game was in the state that it was in, the fact that you didn't let reviewers relay that to their audience, especially the console players got shafted by this decision. So you can say what you want about the company, you can say they're going to try to make it better. That is not even addressing that indicates everything that I need to know about the direction of the company and if I believe they'll actually be able to make a remedy to the situation. I don't think they will. I think they stepped in it big time. They didn't realize that they would potentially be investigated by the Polish Gaming Authority or whatever it is. They didn't think they would be sued by company or law firms here in the U.S. I think it's a class action suit too. So they didn't understand the ramifications of their actions, even though they absolutely should have. How do you not understand it how do you not know the quality of the game is so poor that it's not going to run on those consoles, so you're going to have to offer refunds, and then when you allow refunds to be pulled or refunds for Sony stuff, and you say Sony will handle the refunds even though Sony doesn't have a system to handle refunds, and then Sony starts denying refunds, and then they get so many requests that then Sony has to then take the game off of the store and then offer refunds to everybody who wants them, and then Microsoft is also offering refunds to everybody who wants them. I mean, you clearly overestimated how appealing your game would be on its release, and you clearly underestimated how bad the console version would be. I don't know how they didn't get the testing right. I don't know. They must literally have never played it on console within this studio to not know. Oh my god, it just bugs me. I'm gonna
From
let it
the
go.
COVID-related restrictions. A lot of the dynamics we normally take for granted got lost over video calls or email.
And so this is one thing that I'll actually side with them on. Absolutely, it's going to be difficult working during a pandemic. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not going to say it's going to be efficient. There's probably going to be a slowdown. But they failed to adjust the timescale of the release properly. Obviously, we knew the pandemic was going to hit in March, and it hit like January and February. By February, my parents were already telling me something was going to go on with it. And I was like, okay, I'm down at college. I'm enjoying myself. I didn't see it as a problem. And then by March, everything shut down. They shut down my school. So you're saying in the beginning of March, the U.S. is shutting down colleges. Like, the colleges are shutting themselves down. You're telling me that as a developing studio, developing one of the biggest, most anticipated titles, you're not going to actually have to release it at a later time? So they kept that April 16th release date, then they pushed it back to July, then they pushed it back to September, then they pushed it to December. Like, you should have just said, given the unprecedented situations and events happening in the world, we are actually going to have to retract our release date. We apologize to the consumers, and then they could have worked until 2022 with a pretty good protection of the fact of what's going on in the world. But there's other companies and other developers who are currently working during this stuff during the pandemic, and I bet you'll see that they actually can release a quality product given what restrictions have been put in place. Like Mountain Blade Bannerlord 2. Or Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord. That released in early access. Sure, there's still a bunch of bugs. Sure, it's incredibly buggy. But throughout the entire year, I've seen the progress that the game has made. The game is basically a completely different game. It's not completely different, but the mechanics that they've added, all the stuff, the perks work, like they've added so much to the game. You can see a developer who's actually taking the time to want to put their all into the product.
We took that hit too. Now I'd like to tell you about our plans for the future and present a path for Cyberpunk 2077 on consoles and PC. We have already released 3 hotfixes improving the game, but that's just the beginning. Our ultimate goal is to fix the bugs and crashes gamers are experiencing across platforms. Please expect bigger and smaller patches on a regular basis. The first update will be dropping within 10 days, and it will be followed by another, more significant one in the following weeks. We will, of course, continue to work on the game in future updates and improvements beyond that. Our big plans for supporting Cyberpunk in the long term did not change. As for the free DLCs...
Alright, let's stop. So, if you look over here, you've got hotfix 1.4. Obviously, these released in December. So these were fixes that they tried to release in order to stabilize the game. I wasn't playing on console, so honestly, these didn't really change my experience whatsoever. Look at here, you've got patch 1.1, 1.2. Hopefully those will be important. But what you see here is multiple updates and improvements. And you can see free DLCs, and free next-gen console update. This should obviously be ahead of the free DLC. You should obviously optimize the game for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, because those are the consoles that can actually use the optimization, because they're currently playing on the PS4 and the Xbox One versions of the game, which are very toned down. Like, it's not like a PC where you have the ability to change the sliders of the options and the settings in the game. Like, I could decrease crowd size or increase crowd size if I wanted to. But if you're playing on a PS5 where it could handle more than the PlayStation 4, they aren't upgrading your version to better quality of stuff anytime soon. So that's something that's really annoying. They need to have markers here for updated systems, because if they do not fix the cop response system, I am never going back and playing that game. The cop response system is so broken. Like, you'll accidentally hit somebody with a bullet, right? And then it puts out a crime, and then I had this nightclub mission where I'm trying to take out these animals, the gang, in the city, in a club. And it's like, there are people everywhere. I can't get a clear shot at the targets. So I am going to end up hitting a civilian. Even if I don't shoot them directly, I might ricochet and hit one of them. So it's this whole problem. I spent like 30, 40 minutes just trying to deal with them all, because I couldn't actually shoot, because every time I hit somebody, a cop would just spawn in and fuck me up. Because I'm playing on the highest level of difficulty. If I get a highly geared opponent to just spawn in right where I'm at and start shooting at me from where I'm not covered, I'm going to die. It's just a mechanic that doesn't work, so let's just skip ahead.
We decided to focus on the most important fixes and updates first, and we'll be releasing the DLCs afterwards. Expect more information in the upcoming months. For those of you playing on next-gen consoles in back compatibility, you can still expect the free next-gen update for Xbox Series consoles and PlayStation 5 arriving in 2021. We are aiming at the second half of the year. I'd like to end this video by assuring you that we treat this entire situation very seriously and are working hard to make it right. The guiding principles of our company are still core to what we do. We still want to make amazing games and have an open communication with you, our players. For now, our immediate focus is to work hard on making sure you enjoy Cyberpunk 2077 regardless of platform. Beyond Cyberpunk, we have many plans for the future, which we'll share more about when we're ready. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video.
At least it finally got back to the when we're ready part. Jesus Christ. Okay, look. I'm not going to hold their feet to the fire anymore. I've been so upset during this entire thing just listening to our commitment, or whatever the hell this thing is titled. Our commitment to quality. Look, at the end of the day, they released the console broken. We now know that the E3 2018 or 2019 trailer was completely bugged, canned footage, scripted events. We know that there's no gunfights that you're using in vehicles. Nobody in Night City rides motorcycles, which I didn't realize, actually. But yeah, nobody other than you rides motorcycles. Car driving is horrible. Literally, if you turn around, people will despawn because they don't want to, use the graphical, or the, I don't know what it's called. I guess I'll call it streaming, since he called it that. They don't want to waste the streaming bandwidth or power on putting assets that are behind you into the game. I mean, there's so many different things about this game entitled that are just so bad, so poor mechanically and systematically speaking. Like, they have to completely renovate their cop response system. They do. Like, there's no cops that drive and chase after you in cars like Red Dead. You literally just drive in a straight line. The cops can't find you, but somehow they can magically teleport to your location to begin with. I mean, it is so pathetic of a thing of this company to do. Like, I can't imagine a single other company doing something like this. Like, I don't even think EA would have the balls to get away with something like this, and they released Anthem. I don't think Bethesda has the balls to do something like this, and they released Fallout 76. Like, as much as you can hate on those games, like Bethesda's Fallout 76 is actually probably a better example to compare it to, because if you look at it, you could literally steal stuff from other players' inventories. They left a room that had every item that was created in the game. You could craft legendaries with more attachments and bonuses to them than you could actually find normally in game. There's so many bugs, but that's because they took it from a single-player engine and tried to make it a multiplayer game, and they didn't change it enough from the single-player engine. So I'm not trying to excuse what Bethesda did, but at least you can understand why Bethesda had those issues. CD Projekt Red was in a position where they could have put off releasing the game if they wanted to, and nobody would have complained. But it is what it is. I'm at the point where I'm done here, so there's not much more left for me to say with CD Projekt Red. in Cyberpunk 2077. I enjoyed playing it. I enjoyed my playthrough, but I can't play it again. The reason I can't play it again is because there's no true RPG mechanics that exist in the game. In Skyrim, I can try to play as a good guy, I can try to play as a bad guy. In CD Projekt Red Cyberpunk 2077, if I'm playing as a bad guy, I'm just being an absolute dick for no reason. Like, I'm kicking Alana Pierce out of using my car. I'm not paying her for the other one. That's one thing you could do. It's just like gratuitously mean stuff. Like, I think I did not pay her because I was going to roleplay as a nomad who cared more about his vehicle and his stuff than anything else, but it doesn't matter. Like, the decisions that you get to make in the game are so lackluster. You don't get to join a faction. You don't get to enjoy, like, side missions that are truly enjoyable. Like, you have the College of Winterhold, you have the Thieves Guild, you have the Companions in Skyrim, then you have the other ones where you go after the Daedric items. Like, you have the Civil War quest line, you have the main quest line where you're going after Alduin, you have the different side missions in every city that you go to. You have all the different caves and dungeons and stuff that you can explore. Like, if you just compare it to Skyrim, it falls short. And Skyrim was released in 11/11/11, way back in 2011. So, it just upsets me that they released this and then they expect us to actually believe them again. I hope they don't expect that to be the case, because you're now going to have to show me that you can make a quality product. The quality of this product was so lackluster. Like, compare it to Odyssey. Assassin's Creed Odyssey had a bounty system that existed in the game at launch, but the bounty system was not perfect at launch. If you were like me and you beat the game incredibly quickly and you became the most powerful bounty hunter, or what are they called? I was going to say Phylaki, but Phylaki is for Origins. Phylakites. It's not Gennarios. What is it fucking called? Anyway, whatever their term, the Greek term for mercenary is. You could be the best one, and then nobody would attack you because nobody wanted to. The bounty on your head could get as large as you wanted, but nobody wanted to attack you. So what did they do? Like, a few months later, I came back, and they had reworked it. So there's actually higher tiers of bounty hunters, higher than the maximum, who will keep on chasing you. And even if you make it to the top of those tiers, if your bounty gets high enough, you'll have 3 or 4 more bounty hunters, up to 5, like 1 through 5, who will eventually try to chase you down. And you can end up in these epic fights where you're fighting 2-3 bounty hunters at one time. Like, Ubisoft has a better bounty system than what exists in Cyberpunk. And CD Projekt Red has made it to being the most valuable game company in Europe this year. And then they lost it, and now they've lost 30% of their stock price. So you can see they're paying for their hubris, they're paying for what they've done. I don't want the developers to have to pay for it, but I'm at the point where other companies have done similar mechanics better, other companies have done similar games better, other companies have better systems in place in their games to facilitate a more realistic world and environment. I feel so bad for CD Projekt Red's developers, but the scope of the game that they cut, their decisions that they made, all of their choices seemingly have been in pursuit of profit, and the fact that you're going to cut so much content from the game in order to just release it when you want to release it doesn't give me faith that you're going to add those systems to the game and those updates. First, you got to focus on stability of the game. Once the game's actually stable and playable, then you have to go back and renovate a lot of the systems that exist in the game, and then you can launch DLC. Unless DLC comes with unless they launch a DLC that has a better cop system, that's the only thing that's the only reason I would take DLC before system fixes. Like, you need to fix driving. You need to allow us to have gunfights while driving. You need to fix AI driving. You need to fix so many different aspects of the experience. It's going to be until 2022 until the game is fully done. Like, it's what the developers said. They thought they were going to need until 2022, and to me it's clear that they're going to need until 2022. So this is the end of my video. I got steamed. Hopefully more games will release in a finished state, given how bad this was and the PR backlash. Hopefully more titles will not be released in this condition. I mean, it just boggles my mind that they think they could get away with this and then give this lukewarm apology and then throw the refund request orders on top of Sony, and like, all the stuff they have done since the release of this game has been bad. So we'll see if they can turn it around. I have hope. I really hope this game could be good. I really hope that they can fix it. But they haven't proven to me that they're up to the task. So see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed this content. I just got so fed up at Cyberpunk at this point. Like, I had to make these videos. Or I had to make this video because I guess I'm going to put them all into one. But I spent 30 minutes talking about a 5-minute video, so It indicates how invested I was in the game. I loved it. It did great for my channel like the first few days I was streaming it, but there's a point at which the bugs, the experience, all of that stuff got to a point where it was just not fun to play anymore. And once you get to that point, once you realize the scope and the quality of the products and stuff that's in the game, like, I don't even want to get into crafting. There's no point to craft. There is literally no point. You will find legendaries just sitting on the ground. Why would I need to spend 18 points to be able to craft legendaries into the technical skill? And the technical skill literally gives me no tangible benefits outside of using power weapons. Like, I'd be better off just using not power weapons. Yeah, it is tech weapons. There's no reason for me to do anything else but loot the guns that are around me. Like, I thought I could craft and do stuff at a crazy level. There's no mass craft. There's no mass disassemble. Like, those are simple cost, like, I'm going to call them cost of living, but they're not cost of living. It's simple, user-friendly mechanics that exist within the game to allow us to participate in systems at an increased rate. It's like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. They made us dismantle everything individually. They made us sell everything individually. It got so tedious after a while. If you're going to give me a game where I'm looting a bunch of shit, allow me to break it all down quickly. Don't make me have like a massive inventory of stuff that I have to sell slowly. So, I'll see you guys next time. I'm done. This is the end of my review. I mean, it's not even really a review of the game. I guess I could release a full review of the game if people want me to, but this is basically me just breaking down why Cyberpunk is the way that it is. They faked the E3 2018 or 2019 trailer. I can't remember what year it was, but that was faked. They wouldn't let people who had review copies post their own footage. They had to use stuff that CD Projekt Red had already created, which we all know now is scripted. They did something worse than EA. And if I don't hear any other bigger YouTube channels start discussing that, I think I'm going to be upset with them. Because everybody railed EA. Everybody railed Electronic Arts for doing that stuff with Anthem. But they didn't prevent people who got the game early from posting their own content. To my knowledge. So, hopefully they'll turn it around. I'd really like to be able to play this game and have fun playing it again, but there's what am I going to do? Everything's going to turn out the exact same way. Like, the playthrough is going to end the exact same way. It's not an RPG. It's barely an open world given how poorly it runs on consoles. The scope of the game was cut so severely. Just bugs me. So, I'm done with this video. Hope you guys have enjoyed. Check back into the channel. I'll be doing live streams. I live stream every day. Maybe I'll be uploading a montage or something soon, but now it's time for me to edit this video. So see you guys next time. I'm out of here. Peace.